Africa's leading media and luxury brand, Arise Media Group, will this Sunday launch a new streaming service, Ariseplay, which will boast of a new, bold identity showcasing the best in entertainment worldwide from Hollywood to Nollywood. According to a statement from the group signed by brand and marketing lead Sakina Rien, it will feature all of Arise industry-leading original production. The service is said will ride on the back of an ongoing $100 million seed funding being raised through venture capital firm, adding that its exclusive agreement with the likes of Sony Pictures, Film One, and other independent producers, it will ensure its subscribers get to see the best content from both sides of the Atlantic, all at the ease of their fingertips. It promised never before seen exclusive, including an all-access pass to behind-the-scenes actions, interviews, and a run-up to the release of some world's biggest movies. Ariseplay concluded will bring the best of world entertainment to its subscribers, devices, and platform, and advise them to visit ariseplay.com or download the app on iOS, Google, and Apple stores. Let's take a moment and have a look at what to expect from Ariseplay. Ariseplay. Can't wait for Sunday myself.
Yes, and it's really the perfect time to tap into that massive market for streaming companies. We've now seen the way COVID-19 has changed everybody's lives. It's the perfect time to really just enjoy streaming companies, sit at home and stream your content. And it's great. And the only thing I have to add to all you've just read is that there's a 30-day free trial period, which I'm sure we'll all be taking advantage of, to just check out exactly what's on offer. Great.
That's what we all
It's all very exciting.
Well, yes, I agree with you. That was the word I had in my head, that this is very exciting, particularly now that it has come to fruition. Ariseplay was first introduced on January 20 last year on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the sister media organ, This Day newspaper. And I recall that on that occasion, Collins Kumalo, then managing director, has introduced, had promised that the live streaming will go live in March 2020. But exactly 1 year later, we now have it fully delivered, which means that the last 1 year has been a year of rigorous preparation, a year of crossing the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, as they say. And so we should all look forward to Sunday, 14th March, when Ariseplay will go live. Now, it will go live worldwide. Now, I recall that when the concept was first introduced, there was the emphasis on the fact that it will be used to promote the African story, the African celebrity, to tell the African story in a different manner, even while it provides global content. And I think that part of it is very important, because for many years, the UNESCO has had to deal with what we refer to in communications theory as the New World Information and Communication Order, which is a situation whereby the information process and communication process, despite the rise in communications technology and the democratization of access to communications technology, you still see that the communication content is dominated by the North to the disadvantage of the South. And that's why you find that oftentimes messages from the South are slanted. Now, if you have this kind of platform committed to breaking stereotypes and telling the African story, promoting the African identity, even while providing the regular streaming service content, I think that it will be revolutionary. So I look forward to something revolutionary. The statement that has been issued by the marketing manager has also promised that it will be cheap and affordable. And people can just subscribe to it on all the apps, platforms at their disposal. Well, there's going to be a lot of competition out there in a market that is dominated by the likes of Netflix, Amazon Video, and HBO Max and others. But the originality, the authenticity, of Ariseplay is, in my view, what we recommend it, not just in Africa, but also across the world. And I would like to congratulate the visionary behind it, Prince Nduka Obaegbena, the chairman of the Arise Media Group, that he has remained focused on it. He promised and he has delivered. And so there will be a lot of expectation. And quickly, if I may just add this, I think that also the team that has put this together should also be praised. And it is an expansion of the Arise Media Group. And we should also be proud, that the business, the group, continues to, expand and grow at the level of entrepreneurship and innovation. I'm sure Tunde will be one of the first persons to subscribe.
In fact, once it starts, I'm going to go out there and subscribe. You know what?
Yes.
I am bullish about this, that it will do well, because it's long overdue. And with what we have on ground, with how we tell the stories right here on Arise, I don't think anybody can push the envelope more than Arise on telling that African narrative. So I'm bullish it's going to do well. And other competitors, get ready. We'll give you a run for your money soon. Honestly, I can say that for free. All right, that's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Rotsodiri, Michael Wilson, Adesu Omorua, Aaron Akuriola to give updates on Africa global business, spotting Nigerian activities across the globe. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rising channel. Rotus, over to you. Good morning. Been a while, Rotus, man.
I know. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning.
It was only yesterday I didn't see you, so it's not been a while. So it's like, good to see you again, my friend. It feels like it's been a while.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Tunde. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. First of all, I want to say congratulations to the This Day Arise Media Group on the launch of what is Africa's sole streaming service on Sunday. Tunde was mentioning the timing, and it's really, really good timing for them to be launching this kind of streaming service. It's going to be all about content. So congratulations to them. I myself am also looking forward to the launch of the Ariseplay app. We kick off still on the technology theme. Flutterwave made news earlier this week with the $170 million Series C round, which led to a $1 billion valuation. During that time, an ad was seen by GTB on LinkedIn. If you see that, they're seeking Habari Pay developers. Habari Pay, if you look at the bottom of the screen, highlighted, they're saying that Habari is a young startup. Habari Pay is a young startup on the path to building a truly pan-African payments unicorn. And you notice how they use the word unicorn. Unicorn is when, the status that Flutterwave just attained. Yeah, when you're worth $1 billion. Yeah. So if you look at Nigeria's payments space right now, is really, really competitive. You've got, Flutterwave and their news. We all talked about Paystack and the 200 million acquisition from Stripe. You've also got Paga that's also playing in that space. Interswitch had a 200 million investment from Visa back in 2019 or so. So the space is very, very competitive, and it's interesting to see the banks who have, legacy structures here already looking to go in there as well. And of course, with the banks, they've got existing history with customers. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this payment space plays out between Nigerian banks and these upstart payment services. Very, very interesting. So that was an ad that one of the dailies picked up, and a lot of people have been talking about what GTB is planning to do with Habari. To Ghana, take a look at their Deputy Finance Minister. His name is Charles Adu Bohen, and he was quoted recently saying that Ghana has to utilize a progressive tax system. Let me quote him directly. We need some progressive tax increases to share the burden in the midst of the difficulty posed by COVID-19 pandemic. So Ghana is looking at raising 5.1 billion cedis, about $889 million in new taxes. And they want to use those taxes to cut their deficit, which I believe is between 9 to 10% of their GDP. They also want to use it to support small businesses due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So about 4.1 billion of that cedis also come from them utilizing technology in order to be able to collect taxes. How you do that in an African nation that has a large informal segment, that's another challenge they have to look at. But another 1.1 billion of that is going to come from an increase in consumption taxes and also an increase in fuel taxes. Ghana has fuel taxes. Remember last week we talked about South Africa's fuel taxes. All these, anyway, they all have fuel taxes. And then also increase in consumption taxes, fuel taxes, and increase in taxes on bank profits. The question is this the right time to be doing this? Look at Ghana's inflation. I believe for February, the headline inflation is in blue, food inflation is in yellow, non-food inflation is in red. Pretty much there for February, headline inflation inched up to 10.3% year on year. In January, it's 9.9%. Food inflation, like in Nigeria, they also have their own issues with food inflation. It peaked at 15%, but that was back in May of last year. Right now, it's moderated towards 12.3% year on year, their food inflation. So the question is, should you or can you be hiking taxes on people right now when, they've got inflation, double-digit inflation and other issues that they are facing, and also the squeeze on consumption of the average Ghanaian? But the thing is, it's the reality. They need the money and they have to hike taxes. Although another thing should be said, Nana Akufo-Addo just won re-election in December. He has a second term. He's not seeking re-election again. So he's pretty lucky with the timing of his election to where he starts off his new term and he can now hike taxes with, pretty much little to no consequence. Although maybe people remember it when his party is up for election again. So South Africa, there were some violent student protests in South Africa. As a result, and one person died actually, as a result of education funding. Students at the University of Witwatersrand, I think that's the pronunciation, Witwatersrand, yes, in Johannesburg, they were prevented from registering for a new semester because they failed to secure state subsidies. And also they were owing school fees in arrears. So, in fact, by the way, the University of Witwatersrand, its debt has almost doubled from about 450 million rand in 2017 to over 1 billion rand as we speak. So they were protesting saying that, look, you have to, increase our funding and give us our state subsidies. South Africa cut education funding subsidies because of COVID-19. But the government backed down and said, okay, you know what, we'll fund it. How they plan to do it, I don't know. Interestingly enough, in 2016, 2017, under the Zuma administration, right before he left office, there were protests on free education. In fact, I think there's a banner that was at this recent protest where they have this, large free education poster. And Zuma agreed to give them free education. But he did it right before he left office, putting that funding burden on the Ramaphosa's administration. Till date, they have not funded free education. And you have to ask yourself, like Ghana hiking taxes on Africans or seeking technology for informal sector, can you have free education when you've got all these other liabilities?
Rose, it's not political, and we know why Zuma did it. Zuma did it because that Ramaphosa did beat his former wife, Lamini Zuma, in the race to become the leader of the ANC. So, I mean, this was
so
just
the consequence was to raise free fund.
Free fund. But I want to talk about Ghana.
Yeah.
State of the Nation address is called in Ghana. Was held a couple of days ago. Nana Akufo-Addo got a chance to talk to people in Ghana. And one thing that is pertinent that he said, he did prepare their mind that for us to be able to deliver on the infrastructure we talked about, we have to raise these taxes. And Ghana is in a very funny and precarious state. It's not churning out a lot of revenue. I mean, the Jubilee fields and some other oil fields not kicked in the way it ought to kick in. Yeah, it's all a resource not going well. And it's got a big debt problem.
Yeah.
So we complain. We make a brouhaha about our debt to GDP ratio that was from 25% to about 40% here. Guess what it is in Ghana? 78%.
Pretty high.
It is pretty high, and you're trying to look at that vis-a-vis the infrastructure they have in Ghana. So there's a lot of problem on ground. It's time for them to tax. It's going to be hard. It's going to be biting. It's going to stall growth in that economy. Because obviously once you tax people, they don't come out. Disposable income doesn't come out again because they don't want to spend that much. It's going to be difficult for them. I'll quickly talk about payments. Paga, too, a lot of people have been investing in the Nigerian fintech space. Paga got a seed funding recently of about 25. It wasn't public, 25 million or thereabouts, US. It wasn't that public. And they've been using that money to recreate themselves in the payment space. GT has got GT Pay. I don't know what's happened to GT Pay. I mean, I did ask you that question this morning. Now, Habari is coming in.
It's a spin-off. Habari is a spin-off.
Habari is a spin-off.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that the fact that all these other big boys use GTP as a base. I think Paystack used to do a lot of forwarding with GTP back in the days.
Yeah.
I don't know how that goes now. But one thing I'm telling you is that the payment space is up for a revolution in Nigeria.
Indeed.
And that's why the CBN needs to have a real conversation on digital payments and the payment space in Nigeria. Because why I'm saying that is we need to be able to lower the barrier of entry of some sort. Great argument by the CBN. They keep saying, you know what? If we make the barrier of entry very low that a lot of people can enter, what if people take their money and run away and things like that? They want some level of securitization. So you need to spend big when you want to come into the space. But even at that, if you want more disruption, you still need a lot of people to come into the space. And it's a great time. I predict that the payment space in Nigeria will be worth nothing less about, give or take about 1 or 2
trillion.
5 trillion. Yeah.
Rutus, very quickly, Habari Pay, is it really exactly new? No. Because I mean, as far back as 2018, GT Bank was talking about Habari Pay. But maybe now, with the success of Flutterwave, that has inspired not just GT Bank and other banks to further deepen their involvement in that particular space. Because it's very clear that that's where the future lies, and they don't want to be caught out of it. I mean, long before now, First Bank, has also been playing very big in the mobile money space.
They have First Money.
Yes, it's called First Money. Okay. So it's a good thing to see this, and congratulations to those gentlemen who have set up a Flutterwave. But are you not disturbed that the governor of Lagos State went on Twitter to congratulate them and to talk about the connection of fintech and SMEs in Lagos? Well, Flutterwave should also interpret that the other way. Because when they make more money, the governor is putting them on notice. They will have to pay more taxes. Thank you, Rutis. Thank you.
All right, it's fine. Moving on to Global Business Report. Michael Wilson after the break. We'll be right back. All right, moving on to Global Business Outlook this morning. Michael Wilson joins us from London. Michael, great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, yes. So that kind of buy everything thing that we've seen over various cycles at the beginning of this year and where we are right now, that return financial markets stop their worries about inflation for the moment. Technology is back. S&P 500 and the Dow Jones both closed at record highs yesterday. Earlier, the European Central Bank remained interest rates unchanged. We knew it would do that, but it signaled that it would front load buying bonds, in other words, to try to cap yields because they're worried about the idea of long-term interest rates actually rising. I don't think they will at the moment, as I say, very much in the future, but that was the message from the European Central Bank. So given the improving jobless claims in the United States, as far as Asia was concerned, US futures pausing for breath, it has to be said there, but outperforming. Nikkei 225 is doing quite well overnight, Kospi as well. Taipei, Bangkok, 0.25% higher. Mainland China and Hong Kong held their breath, really. Strong rebounds, but further restrictions on Alibaba, Shanghai Composite, about 0.5% higher, CSI 300. Very, very mixed performance. Not quite sure which way to go, given the way in which trade has moved from tech to cyclical stocks and the rest of it. And that state intervention in China into the equities market has got people wondering about exactly what's going on. One person who we're not wondering about what's going on, well, we kind of have been wondering about what's happened to Jack Ma, haven't we? Wondered if he's gone into exile. Well, I can tell you that according to his private jet records, no such thing. He's been out and about. He's been to Beijing. He's been playing golf at the tropical island resort of Hainan. In other words, it's back to normal for him, but it's pretty clear that he's talking about the future of Ant Financial and his other stuff with Beijing government, where they think that's where he's going in his private jet. But he's not in exile, and he may not have been not speaking publicly, but he's not gone away. Grab, that's the Singapore ride-hailing app that's trying to get itself involved in one of those SPAC deals. I have to say, it's the special purpose acquisition company. We've talked about those, haven't we? And it may well be that they want to raise about $40 billion as a result of that. Maybe they will. And they've set up really with that company to try to get to go public on the stock market. So as far as the United States is concerned, then I mentioned those initial jobless claims. They went down very, very slightly, 712,000. US 30-year bond auction, that passed without incident, gave us no clues whatsoever really about the idea of long-term interest rates. But President Biden signed the stimulus checks into law, checks heading out the door almost straight away to people. And speaking late in the trading day of the United States yesterday evening, he stated that most adults in the US would have access to a COVID-19 vaccination by May. That's well ahead of what we expected. Will we see inflation in the United States? The age-old question we've been asking ourselves on this program quite regularly. We probably will, but my forethought is it will be recovery inflation rather than stagnation inflation. We don't want to get caught in stagnation. That was one thing that was threatened with those of us like me, fairly long memories in the 70s. It never really happened, but it's always a threat when you've got high inflation plus low growth. What do? It's a big question. EU member states are getting tough with the UK about trade. They are preparing, as we know, legal action about the Northern Ireland unilateral declaration of the grace period and all that kind of stuff. All that's very complicated. But what isn't complicated is the fact that now member nations are looking to exclude Britain legally from European financial markets, and also as far as legal cooperation is concerned as well. Japan investors have been buying actually quite heavily, buying bonds at a record rate in 2021. Their reduction in post-Brexit risk, as they see it, they actually quite like the idea of things happening which are good in the UK in terms of trade and the rest of it. It's a clear indication, as far as I'm concerned, that Japan thinks that this pound is going to strengthen. That doesn't help exports much, but it would be a vote of confidence in sterling. You might well be interested to know that, as well as we lot worry about interest rates, especially the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has been talking to a select committee in the Commons, and he's been admitting that the thought of rising interest rates keeps him awake at night. Well, pleased about that. Keeps me awake at night as well sometimes. UK, again, total of 3.2 million households in the UK have acquired a pet since the start of the pandemic. Something to keep them company. It means that the country now has 17 million pet-owning homes. Young people are the main drivers. On a slightly more grim note, there's been an epidemic, as you know, of cybercrime heading out of Microsoft. Those big companies have actually been have been targeted. Now that's come into the UK. It will have also come into your companies too. Small companies especially are problematic as far as cybercrime is concerned, because they don't have the money to actually get their defences together. Large companies can do it, small companies don't, and we all know how important small companies are to our various economies. Oil rallies back on track as far as commodity is concerned. Oil markets powering back, 69, Brent crude up to 69.55, WTI to $65. Again, I wouldn't bank on that, although many countries have to, but we're into that kind of sweet spot really, which both producers and consumers actually like, between $60 and $70 a barrel. Gold's price action, that rings alarm bells too, but not a lot. For those of you who follow technical markets, it's had a double dip upwards, as it were. It does spike upwards. Doesn't say a great deal. It's just technical. Round about 1760 an ounce would be a breakout point for it, but it's at 1740 as we speak. And finally, next week, going to be a good one, actually. The data calendar is quite a juicy one. We've got China's industrial production and retail sales. We've got pan-European inflation, US retail sales next week, FOMC rate decision, and also Bank of Indonesia and Bank of Japan, depending on what they do about interest rates. So a very interesting week, and we will be able, I'm pretty sure, to get a slightly better view of where this year of 2021 is trying to release itself from this pandemic burden.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Well, a pet is for life, not just for a pandemic. You recall that advertising campaign, a pet's for life, not just for Christmas, because people had this really awful tendency of dumping their pets come January. So I hope that doesn't happen to the poor dears this time around when, life finally returns back to normal. But I wanted your thoughts on the record-breaking sales, $69 million somebody paid for a purely digital piece of art that exists in a blockchain somewhere. They're not going to be able to hang it on their wall, and they paid $69 million. It makes no sense to me. This Beeple, that's the name of the artist, Mike Windelman, called Beeple. Doesn't make any sense to you?
That's the new world.
I can't fathom.
Not at all. I mean, I've heard of self-destructive art, and we have artists in this country who've done that. You buy a piece of art, it self-destructs. I have to say, I'd be pretty cross with the artist, wouldn't you? I have absolutely no idea, and I don't want to know. I'd rather move away from that and get a nice watercolor or a traditional oil painting for my wall. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, Michael, it's good you brought up Alibaba, because from a distance, it looks like the Chinese state is persecuting Alibaba. But if you look at it, the State Department for Market Regulations only this morning in China sanctioned about 12 companies, fined them $77,000 each under the antitrust review program that they've been embarking upon. Can we, on the basis of that, say that the Department of Market Regulations in Beijing is fair and is not persecuting anybody? That's one. Two, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has avoided the option of seeking a fiscal consolidation program with the IMF. I think this week, 2 days ago, their negotiation, they prefer the Chinese option, and they've done a currency debt swap with China to the tune of about $1.5 billion. Now, would that address their fiscal difficulties that they have, or are they just buying time? Is it a wise option to keep resisting the IMF and to turn towards the Chinese?
Very good question, Doctor. I don't know the ins and outs of the Sri Lankan position, but my gut instinct is to say it's not a good idea to rebuff the IMF and go into China, because China will want repayment for it. I don't know what they are planning to do. I don't know what the terms of the debt are. I know that the IMF tends to be rather unfeeling when it comes to debt. They've been criticised in the past for lending money and then putting big strictures on them, just like they did in Greece, if you remember, not that long ago. So they don't have a wonderful record about it. But I would be very, very wary. I'm sure the Sri Lankan Finance Department knows what it's doing. But personally, I'd be very wary about putting all my eggs in a kind of tie-up with China, because I know that China will want to be repaid at some stage. Debt does not go away. We kind of think it does in these days of governments doling out loads of money, but really, in the real world, those kind of payments do not go away. So I don't know the ins and outs of it. I would be wary of it. As far as Alibaba's concerned, and the way in which the financial regulators in China are proceeding at the moment, they have to show that they're strict, because they know that the world is gradually looking at them. As far as Alibaba's concerned, and Jack Ma and all the rest of it, I don't know. I mean, maybe these little companies that they've been allowing to be created and then finding are going to grow big, and if they do, they'll get smacked down, just like Jack Ma was smacked down by the Chinese government. I have to say that they are a big economy. There's no question about that. But as far as the international playground, the international arena is concerned, I think they've probably got a long way to go with their regulatory outlook. Although it has to be said that sometimes, the United States, that great bastion of traditional financial values, has overreached itself as far as international legal constraints are concerned. The SEC apparently has got very long arms, and of some of which have extended into other countries as well. So on the international stage, it's very difficult, but I do feel as though China probably needs to get its act in order.
All right, 3 quick questions, Michael. Number 1 will be about, what's it called now? It's going to be about the UK. And I'd like to ask, where is the growth going to come from? The UK is struggling to be able to have these trade deals, to be able to churn out this product. Where is the growth that Rishi Sunak and Andrew Bailey have been saying, it's going to come at some point in the economy and things are going to rebound? Where's that growth going to come from? And secondly, the challenges the UK is facing now with the EU, as regards market and getting into market, how's that going to pan out on the economy? And thirdly, I got an answer for you, Michael. It was OECD, group of rich nations, that said that the $2 trillion stimulus package by Joe Biden will add 1% growth to the world. How feasible is that?
Well, I don't. As I said to you the other day, I don't know where we get that. I don't know where the OECD gets that figure from. I think it probably will add some kind of growth. Whether it's 1%, 2%, who knows? I really don't understand the calculation of that. Maybe they'd be kind enough to let us know. I do subscribe to their newsletter, so if anybody from the OECD is listening, then we'd like to know, all of us, wouldn't we? We'd like to know how you get to a figure like that, because I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Who knows? Your other 2 questions were. Yes, Britain. Where's Britain's growth going to come from? Okay, so what those two are I'm not defending them, but what they've actually been talking about is a rebound, not growth. I think that everybody agrees that growth's going to be very, very sluggish indeed. I think what we're seeing is, I think that once people can go out and spend, we will see a rebound. That's not growth. That's just going back to where we were. I think that'll happen. As far as growth is concerned, I think it'll be very sluggish. I mean, the figures that were quoted were, 1.6, 1.7%, stretching out to 2025, 2026. I don't think that's not really growth. That's just keeping your head above water. And that doesn't even account for inflation either. So I don't think that either of those two were talking about growth. They were talking about rebound. And the third part of your question was
about the EU, struggling with the EU. But Michael, they said we don't have time, but thank you so much for your time. Maybe we'll talk about this next week. Thank you so much for your time. All right, we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Adeso Morwa. We'll be right. All right, welcome back to the Rise News channel. It's time to talk to Adeso Morwa about COVID-19 pandemic. Adeso, great to have you. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Dr. Abati, and good morning, Tundun.
Morning.
Well, it's been 1 year since the WHO declared the pandemic, and we've recorded 118 million infections globally, and a total of over 2.6 million deaths. Also, the WHO says a total of about 300 million doses of vaccines have now been administered globally. Here in Nigeria, 287 new cases of the COVID-19 were recorded in the last 24 hours. In Nigeria, 287 new cases. And talking about Nigeria, more states have received their vaccine from the federal government. If we could have the graphics to show you. There are 26 states here, but I just got confirmation that Zamfara has also received 55,920 doses, so that makes 27 states. We can confirm that these states have received their consignments. Some of the latest includes the President's states, Katsina, states of Caliphate, Sokoto, Oyo in the southwest, and of course Zamfara, I just told you. About 9 states are yet to receive or confirm receipts, including Rivers, Edo, and Kogi states. Now, out of these 27 states you see on your screen, only a handful are yet to commence vaccination, such as Lagos. Although Lagos received vaccine on Tuesday, it will flag off today at the Kakovid Isolation Center in Yaba. And for those states that have commenced vaccination, we have seen strategic leaders, namely governors, deputies, and members of Executive Council, traditional rulers, taking the first doses, except in Anambra State, where the governor inspected and supervised the Speaker of the State House of Assembly take his first jab. For the question mark, if you could go back to that graphics, if you see it, the states with question marks, the states and the NPHCDA has not been forthcoming with revealing figures. It was such a task getting the doses for the states. And I think it's important we mention that sparring information on the vaccine deployment at any level, federal or state, has the potential to further affect public confidence in the vaccination process. Away from Nigeria, Danish and Norwegian authorities announced yesterday they have temporarily suspended the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, citing concerns over a possible association with blood clots. Now, this is even as AstraZeneca, the manufacturer, says its vaccine is safe, and both the EU and UK drugs regulators say there is no evidence of a link between the vaccine and the clots or even death. Now, while Danish suspension is expected to last 2 weeks, Norwegian authorities did not immediately provide a timeline for their review of the vaccine. The particular batch where this controversy is coming from, we know has been shipped to about 17 EU countries. And at the moment, 8 countries have partially or totally suspended the use of Oxford-AstraZeneca. There's also been a response from Nigeria. The NPHCDA says it did not receive doses from that batch under investigation, and no adverse effects have been associated with Covishield here in Nigeria, but it says that there have been some side effects reported, and they have been mild. And to Africa generally, 1 year after the pandemic was declared, the continent has now surpassed 4 million coronavirus infections, and the WHO says the battle against the virus is actually, which has claimed over 106,000 lives, is receiving a crucial boost, of course, with the arrival of vaccines through the United Nations COVAX. Now, the global health body is warning that frontline health workers and other priority groups should be at the front of the queue of vaccination, and this is why. It says 267 health worker infections have been recorded on average every day, translating to 11 new health worker infections per hour. To date, more than 100,000 health workers have contracted COVID-19 in Africa, and that accounts for 3.5% of the total cases. Now, this is crucial when you put into consideration the staggering doctor-patient ratio on the continent. And finally, this morning, Tanzania's main opposition leader says President John Magufuli is in India and receiving medical treatment for COVID-19 and is in serious condition. Mr. Tundu Lissu, who lost last year's election to Magufuli, said medical and security forces in Kenya had informed him, but he did not provide any evidence. President Magufuli, as we know, is a self-confessed coronavirus skeptic and has been out of public view for nearly 2 weeks, which is very unusual for a president who likes to be seen.
Well, quickly, Magufuli. Well, some people will say it's karma, some people will say it's nemesis, because President Magufuli is one of those leaders in Africa who have consistently denied that COVID-19 exists. He prioritizes prayer over science. You know, at one point he organized a national prayer, and he advised his people in Tanzania to take herbal concoctions and to engage in steamy inhalation. Steamy inhalation, in fact, at a point became a major preoccupation in Tanzania. Now that the report is that, he came down with COVID-19, well, we can only pray for him and wish him well, The first report was that he was taken to Kenya, the National Hospital in Kenya. And now Tunde Lissu, who lost to him in the last presidential election, is saying that he's been taken to India and that he's in a state of coma. But the Indian authorities have refused to get involved. The Kenyan authorities have also not said anything. But whatever it is just unfortunate, and we can only wish him a speedy recovery. And it's ironic that this is a man who is a professor of chemistry before he became a politician. And you have in Africa a professor of chemistry prioritizing prayer and superstition over science. But the good side of it is that if at any time the story is confirmed, then the people of Tanzania would then realize that indeed COVID-19 is real. As the Catholic Church leadership in that country had been saying before now, because they said they have seen an upsurge in the number of burial ceremonies that the church had to organize. Now, the other leader that has been guilty in this regard, you will recall Pierre Nkurunziza of Burundi, who died last year after he came down with COVID-19, the same COVID-19 that he said did not exist. Later, about 6 months later, former president again of Burundi, Pierre Buyoya, also died. So this is a strong signal to everybody that truly COVID-19 is an egalitarian disease. It has no respect for gender or class or position.
Thank you so much, Adesua, for your time. Sorry we had to interject, but point taken.